stud receiver in the AFC South is flying in the face of history. What is the Dynasty Depot, and why do you need to know about it? And we usher in a new era of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour right here tonight. Plus, Nelson Verbit brings a special announcement for all current and future FFPC Dynasty players. The Week 2 main event second-place team owners Ryan Barker and Adam Casinelli stop by, and much more. We've got a great show for you. Farrell Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour starts
right there in the dresser, so easy. Pick me up, kiss me, you squeeze me.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now listening to the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by MyFFPC.com, with your hosts Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here's Eric Balkman and Farrell Elliott.
Thank you very much, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all of you Balkaholics and Farrelliacs, excuse me. First time. Sorry. Forgive me. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm, of course, your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman, and my co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Farrell Elliott. Coming up on tonight's show, we'll speak with the Dynasty Depot's co-founder, Nelson Verbit, plus the two co-owners of the second-place Week 2 team in the FFPC main event, Ryan Barker and Adam Casinelli, drop some knowledge about DeAndre Swift, about Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and much more. Shout out to the chat room right now. Feel free to post any questions you might have in there. If you want to connect with us on Twitter, please do so. The show is at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman. Farrell is at KFFSC. This evening, you can also post on our Facebook page at Facebook.com/HSFFO. If you want to chime in and talk with us, please do so. Give us a call, 347-426-3682. That's 347-GAME-OVA. You can also email the show at the inbox at highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, now is the time to send them. We'll try to get to all the questions, tweets, and emails in our fantasy feedback segment coming up later on in the show, thanks to our audio engineer. And, of course, my best friend, Bryce, who, by the way, getting married on Sunday. The commissioner, Bryce, getting married to his lovely fiancée Sunday afternoon. Can't wait for that party. It's going to be fun. And, of course, our producer and mutual friend, Rob. Want to welcome in for the very first time, ladies and gentlemen, as the permanent co-host of this program. You know him from the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship, the unofficial third co-host of this show, now the official second co-host of this show. It's Farrell Elliott. Farrell, happy Friday. Welcome in, man.
Oh, Balky, thank you. Thanks for such a great music selection to make me feel right at home from the start. It's a big weekend going on up there for you. Goodness gracious, Week 4 of football, and you've got a wedding to boot.
Yeah, and I'm introducing a new co-host. By the way, shout out to the Quiet Hollers, Louisville's finest, who helped perform that theme song for the intro to the show tonight, a band that you know very well because you manage them, Farrell.
I do, and we've made Plotting a Wonderful Return for 2021. That song, that selection is titled Pressure, and the lead singer, Shadwick, comes from a very punk background, and that song has some punk theme to it, but it is very popular across the wide group of Quiet Holler fans. So thank you for playing it tonight.
Absolutely, and I found out as I was researching, because I went through my Quiet Hollers collection today, and then I went on YouTube to look at some of the videos. I didn't realize you actually are in the music video for that song.
Well, that was with a wrestler. Oh man, I can't remember his name right now. But let me tell you, there's guys walking around.
Song or something.
Yeah, their band members are walking around still needing to see a chiropractor. Those shots where he is jumping off the ropes into the band members, and these are small guys, they're relatively small guys in compared to the athletic work. Congo Kong, that's who he was, and Congo put all full 350 of his pounds diving off the ropes and making contact with some of the band members. So it was a blast shooting the video, but I was glad I was not in any of the fight scenes.
Yeah, and it's you mentioned him too, Shadwick Wild, who's the lead singer of the Quiet Hollers. He did not look like he wanted to have anything to do with the wrestling aspect of that video.
And how did you like the gentleman that filled in as the ring announcer? I thought he had some Bachman-esque qualities to him.
Oh, I listen, I don't know who that was, but whoever it was, I strive to have the pipes and the announcing ability that dude had. That was fantastic. That the whole video was just tremendous. And I want to tell everybody, if you haven't gotten a chance, not only download the song, but also check out the video on YouTube for the Quiet Hollers Pressure, the new theme song for the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. I want to let everybody know that coming up in tonight's show, in actually just a minute or so, we're going to have the Dynasty Depot's co-founder Nelson Verbit pop on, plus the two co-owners of the second place Week 2 team in the FFPC main event, Ryan Barker, Adam Casinelli. They're going to drop in. We're going to talk a little fantasy football with them. Ladies and gentlemen, second place overall in the main event. It's the first time they've ever played the main event. Pretty striking stuff. Wow. We're going to get into some commentary there for sure. But listen, before we get to those guys, I do want to bring in our first guest tonight. He is a longtime FFPC player. He's been on the show before, actually. He's here tonight to talk about his brand new venture with the FFPC and why all of y'all Dynasty players need to know about the Dynasty Depot. You follow him on Twitter at Credit Card King. That's Credit Card King without the A in card. Please welcome back onto these airways the Dynasty Depot co-founder, Nelson Verbit. Nelson, thanks so much for popping on and making some time for us tonight, man.
Derek Farrell, thank you very much. Very nice to be here tonight.
It's exciting to have you, and I think the big question on everybody's minds, we saw the press release. We've been following the Dynasty Depot on Twitter. Checked out thedynastydepot.com. But tell us a little bit more. What is the Dynasty Depot, and sort of how did this whole idea come into fruition where you guys decided to go ahead with this?
So basically, during last summer, I guess it came up. You're sitting there and you're not there yet, and the drafts are over and there's no action. And we try to come up with a way to provide action. I have partners at Rick and Mark. We sat down, we talked about different ideas, and we just felt there was a better option, for people that wanted to orphan their teams instead of just walking away from them. There was also a better option for people that own dynasty teams, that want to make a profit on these teams. We figured, how can we create action? That's what we were trying to do, off-season action. We saw people that were good drafters, drafting maiden teams, maybe possibly selling them before the season even begins for a profit. Draft junkies, are just good at that, and there's teams that could be monetized, day trading teams, drafting teams, and all of a sudden put them up for sale because they're playing it down. So that kind of brought us into Dynasty Depot. How could we create something to fulfill those needs? So what we did is we created an auction site where you can buy and sell existing FFPC dynasty teams. Okay, so you need to be an FFPC member to buy or sell teams on the site. So what we did, we're going to provide a single sign-in process. So when you sign into Dynasty Depot, you'll automatically become an FFPC member. If you're already an FFPC member, you'll simply use your FFPC credentials and sign right onto the site.
Nelson, this is an excellent program. I tried to flesh out exactly what this meant, and now I can see what it's going to do for some of the players. I've never played any Dynasty, but when I hear you describe this option, it makes me want to get involved. It makes me want to look at what's available to buy, and it makes me want to draft some, I think you said maiden teams to move forward.
Well, and that's all part of it. So let me just give you a quick example of how it's going to work. If you're a buyer, okay, you're going to use our filter to find what you're looking for. You'll filter the filter by league amounts, by league type, standard, superflex, best ball, superflex, best ball. Select your team, place a bid, or the well-known buy it now. If you're a seller, you're going to select your team from the drop box. Remember, your teams are going to be imported from FFPC as we're going to be linked with them. So your teams are going to be listed there. Real easy. You'll select an auction time. There'll be 1 day, 3 day, 5 days. You'll set a reserve, being a minimum price that team can go for, or you'll set it buy it now, and you'll simply post your team. We're anticipating when we go live January 4th, we're anticipating between 100 and 300 teams being available on this site. Now, there's teams that you're going to buy for $5. There's going to be a $250 dynasty team that you might spend $800 on. Okay, so people are going to use this for different ways. Some are going to use it to not orphan their team and try to monetize, what's left of that team. Maybe they have problems. Maybe they just want to get out of the dynasty business. But there's going to be an awful lot of teams that are going to try to maximize their value and see what they can get for those teams. And we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, and Nelson, and first of all, it's so awesome. One of the things that the FFPC has not done before is allow existing FFPC dynasty owners to sell their teams at a profit. That will change now with the Dynasty Depot, and people will have the option to do that. Can you explain a little bit how the auctions will work? How long are these auctions going to take? Are they going to be very quick? Are they going to be prolonged? If you wanted to bid on a team and try to win one, how does that process work?
Eric. So, no problem. So, again, the auctions are going to be set for 24 hours, 72 hours, or 5 days. So you have a 1, 3, and 5 day option of what you want to put your auction time for.
And so it's totally user friendly in that regard, no question, which is going to be great. So you mentioned earlier, and by the way, we're talking to Nelson Verbit, the co-founder of Dynasty Depot. Check out dynastydepot.com. Follow him on Twitter at @TheDynastyDepot. Nelson, you had mentioned the membership access to this. So obviously, if you're an FFPC player, you sign in with your FFPC credentials, you're in. You can sign up with Dynasty Depot. What's the membership cost for something like this?
Okay, so what we're running for our FFPC, I'm not going to get into all the different membership levels, but no, you are going to have to be a member to get onto our site. We want serious players. We want people that are going to be buying teams and selling teams. This isn't for anybody to be playing around with. You need to be a member to be on our site. But what we're going to be offering, and we have started to publicize it, if you go to dynastydepot.com, there's a box. You simply put your email in there. We've had hundreds of players already put their emails in there. Okay, we're going to be providing the FFPC players with a little bonus here. So what we're going to be giving these guys for $59, okay, a year. You're going to bid, buy, and sell as many teams as you want. You're going to get entry into the leaderboard contest, which I'm going to tell you about in a minute, which is probably the best thing I'm going to tell you tonight. You're going to get access to Dynasty Depot's exclusive rankings powered by our partner, Roster Watch. Roster Watch has never done Dynasty rankings. They're scouting. They are a sponsor of the Reese Senior Bowl. They go and do this work, and they are going to be providing exclusive content just to us, okay, as a member. You're going to get a free Roster Watch Pro membership with $50 value right there all of a sudden. Our charter members are going to be getting these bad you-know-what Dynasty Depot T-shirts that we're going to box up and send them out to each and every one of you. And here's the best part about it. If anybody knows anything about about orphans, you have to check an orphan page 10,000 times a week to see if you get lucky and one gets posted. Not at Dynasty Depot. What's going to happen is, with this membership that I'm giving our FFPC members, you are going to get a text notification every time a new team posts. That means if you look at the team on your home screen on your phone, you like it, you press on it, boom, you're at the bid page. It's simple. Okay, it's very user-friendly mobile.
That's
Nelson,
beautiful.
I know
so
Farrell
Nelson,
Go ahead, Farrell.
Yeah, but Balky, I was going to ask Nelson. So if you're an FFPC player, you whether you own a dynasty team or not, you buy this, you buy your $59 membership, and you're off and running. You can choose to buy a team. You can choose to just observe. But what you really want, Nelson, is people to come in and be active in the marketplace.
We believe that's going to happen. We know the percentage of teams that are orphaned. We know people like me that own over 100 dynasty teams. We would like to move some of them. I don't want to have 100 dynasty teams, but when I see one, I buy it. What am I going to do during maiden season? I'm going to draft maiden teams. It doesn't matter if I have 100 or 200. It's what I do. Dynasty players are unique. Okay?
Yeah.
We at the end of the day, you look, oh, my God, I have 110 teams. What did I do? Well, we're going to give you a place to move some of those teams. And if you're good at what you do and you put good teams up, you're going to be able to move them for profit. And if you want to get out of it and you're done with Dynasty or you have too many teams, you need to sell some off, you're not going to have to walk away from it. Nobody else has created anything that allows you to do something else besides walk away from an orphan your team. Okay, this is
so
what
where
this
do
is
I
about.
go to take my $59 and be the first to be available when you go live? Give us that live date again.
Okay, so right now, November 1st is the first key date. That is when the site will open for memberships. From November 1st through the end of November, we are offering this a basically 2-for-1 deal where you're getting it basically for free to our FFPC friends. Okay, so that's going to happen then. January 4th, auctions will go live. I do have to say this because people have asked me in the chat rooms, it's the same question. You cannot post your team without paying your 2021 dues. Okay, you can't sell a team that you haven't paid for. So if you want to walk away from it, you can walk away from it. But if you think it's worth something and not walking away for nothing, you must pay your 2021 dues to be able to post that team on our site.
Balky, I think I'm going to put dynasty football teams on my Christmas list. That's going to be right at the top.
Well, and you'll be able to do
Eric,
that too. Like,
Eric,
yeah, go ahead, Nelson. Yes.
Yeah, I got to tell you about a last feature here. This leaderboard feature.
Yes, I was going to ask you. Go ahead.
This is tremendous. So everybody likes a game inside a game, right? So you're playing dynasty football and you're on FFPC's platform and you're playing for prizes, and that's what you do. With Dynasty Depot, every team you purchase, I don't care if you buy a $77 Dynasty team for $1, that team will hit the Dynasty Depot leaderboard. It will be broken up into 4 different leagues: Best Ball, Superflex, Standard, Superflex, Best Ball. So you buy a Best Ball team, and you pay $5 for it. And over the off season, you build it, you make trades, you make it into a good team. When the season starts in 2021, your points weekly will transfer from FFPC to the Dynasty Depot leaderboard weekly. At the end of the year, there's going to be prizes where the main prize, the number one prize in each category, is an FFPC main event seat. Meaning, for $5, if you buy a team for $5, you could turn that $5 into $500,000, right?
Wow. That's great.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Nelson, listen, so much good stuff here tonight, learning about the Dynasty Depot. We're all going to follow first of all, we all follow you on Twitter at Credit Card King, but we also want to follow Dynasty Depot on Twitter at Dynasty Depot. TheDynastyDepot.com is the website. And Nelson, I think that's the best thing to do to get more information right now is go to TheDynastyDepot.com, sign up for that newsletter.
Yeah, let me correct you real quick here. It's on Twitter. It's at The Dynasty Depot. Don't follow me personally. I don't have as much to say as you think I might have to say, right? So you might want to go at The Dynasty Depot. And if you want to sign up, put your email in. You will get a letter from us announcing the FFPC promo, an email from us a week before it opens up on November 1st, and that is DynastyDepot.com.
DynastyDepot.com is where to go. At the Dynasty Depot on Twitter. Nelson, tremendous stuff. Listen, we're very excited about this partnership. In fact, we're going to have to get our good buddy Alex Dunlap from Roster Watch on this show to talk about Dynasty Depot more, because I think this is going to be awesome for FFPC Dynasty players and certainly changing the ease of buying and selling for sure for people. It's going to encourage.
Do you think you get a word in if me and Alex are on the show?
That's probably not the case, but that's okay. I'm going to get you guys your own. I'm just going to let you. It's going to be. I'm going to be like Calipari at University of Kentucky. I just roll out the basketball, right? So I just turn on the mics and you guys talk for an hour, and I think people would love that.
You guys.
For sure.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Congratulations,
so much,
Nelson.
Appreciate
Thanks, Farrell.
it, Nelson.
Good to talk to you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Nelson. That's Nelson Verbit, ladies and gentlemen. From DynastyDepot.com, you follow at the Dynasty Depot on Twitter. And if you're an FFPC Dynasty player, or if you're thinking about becoming one, definitely that membership totally worth its weight. Especially when you consider those Dynasty leaderboards at the end of the season where you can earn main event teams. Tremendous stuff. Tremendous stuff from Nelson Verbit tonight. So, Farrell, you heard Nelson talk about you've never played Dynasty before. I have a couple of Dynasty teams. Nelson has over 100, which is insane to me. And Nelson is an insane type of guy, but he's the right kind of insane. We are going to shift our focus now to two players who do not play in over 100 Dynasty leagues. In fact, it is their first year playing high-stakes fantasy football, and I want to welcome into the show right now. They are seasoned vets. Now, this is their first time playing high stakes, but they are seasoned vets when it comes to playing in leagues amongst their friends, whether it be one league or, in Ryan Barker's case, 13 leagues against his friends. They are brothers-in-law, and they are sitting at currently, after the Thursday night game, I believe they're in 15th place right now in the 2020 FFPC main event in their first year competing. So I want to welcome in Ryan Barker and Adam Casinelli. Gentlemen, congrats on the success so far, and thanks for joining us this evening.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having us.
So we're going to get into the fantasy football portion of the interview here shortly, but before we get into that, I want to kind of get to know you guys better. The listeners want to get to know you guys better. Tell us what you do when you're not playing and you're not being in 15th place overall in the main event, which pays out a $500,000 grand prize. Tell the listeners what you're doing for a living. Ryan, I'm going to let you go first, and then go ahead, Adam. You can answer after that.
Yeah, so my most important job is I'm the dad of twin daughters, so a little shout-out to Molly and Tori. But when I'm not doing that, I'm the controller for a commercial real estate firm here in San Diego. So love the numbers.
Yeah, and I also have one little daughter. She's actually the face of CC Frijoles on our team. So she's my little daughter CC. And other than that, I do advertising sales. So I work with attorneys across the country and been doing that for quite some time.
So you guys are brother-in-laws, but you formed another marriage here at the altar of the FFPC. Who stirred the straw in the drink to make this happen? Who made this come together?
Well, I would say Ryan already had one team built, and they're actually doing really well with that team too. Him and his cousin. And they came out to a wedding in Colorado, and Ryan and I both like sports. We both play fantasy football with our friends, and he had mentioned that they finally had pulled the trigger on doing like a Vegas main event type thing with you guys. So he was telling me about it, and you don't really have to push me too much when it comes to sports gambling. So I was like, well, tell me more about it. And 15 drinks and a wedding later, we had just sat there and said, well, yeah, I'm in to make another team, and let's see if we can get at least one of these teams going, if not both of them.
So Ryan, so for anybody who's watching this on blogtalkradio.com right now, I have the photo up there. The FFPC message boards has the photo. I think it was in the FFPC email this week. I could be wrong on that. But the image, the photo of you guys together at a wedding with former head coach and current NFL Network personality Steve Mariucci. You guys were just hanging out with him at some wedding. Ryan, was this the same wedding, or were these separate weddings you guys were at?
No, this is actually a different wedding. I think that wedding was last summer. It was about a year ago, and he was actually the uncle of the groom, and we knew he was going to be there, so we strategically waited, and we ended up getting to meet him and hang out with him quite a bit. So it was fun. He's a very cool guy.
These guys are real life wedding crashers. That's who they are. You just figured that out. And now you've crashed the FFPC your first year, and these guys are great.
I actually just like full disclosure. I was actually I for you guys. Farrell knows this, but you guys probably don't. I live in the shadows of Lambeau Field up in Northeast Wisconsin, and I was actually up in Green Bay this past weekend, and I did crash a wedding up there. No Steve Mariucci, but I did get a free beer and a lot of weird looks, which is okay. So you guys, Adam, let me pose this to you. Adam, do you have any interesting mooch stories? Did he spill anything from his time in the NFL or with NFL Network? Anything interesting you can share with us?
Well, I mean, aside from being a diehard Lions fan, Steve Mariucci, he told us like the ins and outs of really who to target when you're talking fantasy football, but mainly he was more kind of laughing at when we were talking with him. Ryan was being victimized by a drunk partygoer, so I got to talk more football with him while Ryan tried to shed this lady because he wanted to talk football as well. So, but no, Steve's a great guy. He was like very approachable. He would come up to you and talk to you. So he was really fun to get to know. And but yeah, if you ask him a question, he'll just tell you the answer. So it was funny because I grew up in Michigan, and being a lifelong Lions fan, you know what that's like. So it was fun to see someone who lived the misery, not just rooted for the misery. So
yeah, it worked for the misery too, which was insane for a while. But good stuff there. Always appreciate a good mooch story on the show. All right, let's get into fantasy football here. Guys, listen, many people coming into this year, they were concerned about the recent history of a receiver leaving his previous team to a new offense, a new head coach, a new team, and then they struggled their first year. Adam, why didn't you think that DeAndre Hopkins would fall victim to that end this year, since you guys drafted him at the 202 in this main event where you're in the top 15 right now?
Yeah, I just kind of watching what transpired. I was never a fan of Houston. When he got moved, I have him in all. I have 3 leagues. This is the main league I have, and then I have 2 smaller ones with some groups of friends. I have Hopkins in every single league, and I knew he was not going to get back to me in a 12-man league, so I had to either take him really in the beginning of the second round on the turn because I drafted 11th, or never have him on my team. So I wasn't worried, mainly because in his 7-year career, he's only missed 2 games. And this guy, he's injured right now. He has a Q next to his name, but he'll probably suit up on Sunday. The guy just doesn't miss games. So when I look at like him individually, I said, hey, new contract, new team, and the way he was traded as, in my opinion, the best receiver in the game, I just saw that as a win-win. And with Kyler Murray only getting better and better and throwing the ball 40 times a game, that's just kind of like a win-win. So that's why I jumped on it originally so early, because he probably would have made it at least a few more picks down the road. So I knew I had to take him then or just not have him. So
25 receptions for Hopkins, and he's yet to find the end zone, but you guys got to love that. And I think that's a lesson that you must have learned in playing in these, what I like to call basement or garage leagues. You guys are calling them home leagues. Mm-hmm. So you're going out and you're getting your guys. You know who you want. The average draft position be damned. Well, what's a big difference now that you've experienced? You've been in that ballroom. You came in and you saw everything that the FFPC has to offer, and now you're 3 weeks into it. What are the differences from what you're doing now in the high stakes world based on what you were doing in your home leagues?
I think for me, the 20-round draft is really, I think, the biggest difference, and having to plan out your whole season kind of ahead of time, and there's no like huge waiver wire for quick fixes, kind of a la Mike Davis. Mike Davis is usually sitting on the waiver wire, but in this league he's drafted, and so you have to, you really have to plan ahead. Bye weeks, I think, become critically important. I'm not a heavy trade guy in other leagues, but sometimes that's an interesting strategy if you have a good draft. You could use those pieces to kind of fill weak spots, and here you got to be the draft is vital, and you really have to look ahead and plan for that. So I think for me that was definitely the biggest difference.
Talking with Ryan Barker, Adam Casinelli, the 15th place overall team in the FFPC main event heading into Sunday games this weekend. Ryan, we saw a lot of players targeting running back early this year, maybe more so than we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years. And you guys did it here. Melvin Gordon, Chris Carson, Raheem Mostert in rounds 3 through 5. How important, when you and Adam were talking about this, how important was it for you guys to lock up all those backfield touches early in this draft?
Yeah, I think it was really important, and kind of as Adam alluded to, all the credit to him for picking Kelsey in this format at 11 and following it up with Hopkins. But when you take a tight end and a receiver in those first few rounds, you got to go heavy on running back because, the top guys fall out fast. And at 11, you're just not going to get one. So the strategy became avoid Le'Veon Bell at all costs. And, and so – I think honestly we were thrilled that those 3 guys were there. They're all sort of that feature back guy, not a huge timeshare for any of them. Mostert's awesome, but he's hurt right now. But to get those 3 guys and then be able to follow it up with Diggs and Wilson right after that, I think we were very thrilled with how that worked out.
I notice you guys are drafting tough players. Like you say, Hopkins has only missed 2 games in his career, knows how to play hurt. Name brands are on your roster. Gronkowski drafted in the 9th round, the Tampa Bay tight end. We finally got a little Gronkowski this past weekend. Patience has paid off. Is he a player you're going to flex in the lineup? You're going to move forward with him, playing him in week 4?
I don't know if he'll be week 4. It's a possibility. We have a couple guys that are questionable this week. But in terms of Gronk, kind of what we see him playing out as is we'd love to have another tight end that we can flex in there, especially with the 1.5 for tight ends. But it's going to kind of depend on how banged up Tampa gets because now that Fournette's out and Godwin's out, you could see him probably getting more targets. I just think for him it's a matter of time to become consistent. But, that was if you kind of look at our team as a whole, all of our main players that we looked at are either in a brand new team and a brand new contract or they're in the last year of their contract. So that was one thing that I kind of was joking with Ryan as I was picking these guys. I was like, we got the team of newbies on new teams that are out to prove something with Diggs on the Bills and Mostert finally getting his extension and Hopkins and Carson's in his last year, Gordon with the Broncos. So when we looked at Gronk, I was like, man, everyone's taking tight ends like crazy. I know I got Kelsey, but I better take a second one here. And that's kind of where Gronk came into play. So, I'd like to see what he does this week and getting into the end zone, hopefully, because I think once he gets the first one, Brady's just going to keep going back to him. So,
well, I drafted him in the 9th round too, guys, and he, Brady had him in the end zone this week. Would have been catch number 7 and touchdown number 1. The ball he threw it way over his head. It was an uncatchable ball. So I agree with you. I think it's going to begin to click. And when I took him in the 9th round, let me tell you, there were some guys kind of smirking at the table. You taking that little smirk, and when you threw up a couple goose eggs or close to it in the first 2 weeks, patience may prove to be a virtue where Gronk is concerned.
Yep, for sure.
And I think you guys are right too. We're going to find out a lot about Gronkowski this weekend. No Chris Godwin, no Leonard Fournette. You're going to have Mike Evans, Ronald Jones. I guess you can make the case for O.J. Howard, but Brady is going to be relying definitely on Gronkowski, maybe this week more so than he has the previous 3 weeks. So I think we will learn about a lot about Rob Gronkowski for the rest of the way this weekend for sure. I want to shift to talk about receivers here. I guess this is sort of a Gronk question for you as well, Adam. Currently, at least at last check, I saw you had Golden Tate in your final flex spot for week 4. I'm just curious how difficult of a decision that is, knowing that you have John Brown, who practiced in full today. You have Russell Gage, knowing that Julio Jones, isn't at full power, full Julio Jones. And then you have Gronkowski. So I'm just kind of curious what your thought process is when you're setting your lineup for this specific league for Sunday. What are the chances that Golden Tate stays in there above all those other 3 guys?
Yeah, I know last week I had him in there too, and then I made the switch like 30 minutes before kickoff to Russell Gage, and Gage got the concussion in the second quarter. So I think they only had a difference of about 4 or 5 points. But again, it kind of comes down to what's going to happen with the Atlanta receivers. I'm hoping that there's some kind of an update tomorrow, possibly, because obviously Gage will have more targets if one of those two receivers in Julio or Ridley are out. So, I mean, if he's the third receiver, I still think he's a great viable option, and I know he's probably playing, but he still has to clear, I think, like the final concussion protocol, even though he practiced in full. So, I mean, I don't know. Again, being a Detroit Lions guy, I don't want to rely too much on the Lions X's with Tate, and I have Marvin Jones in there, but, I mean, you kind of got to look at it and say if Gage is a top 2 or 3 guy and he's healthy, we might stick him in and go with that. But again, we got Chris Carson too on the running back side, where I mean all signs point to saying he's playing, but we're not too deep on running back with Mostert out too. So it'll just kind of depend on other people determining whether or not we put our guy in, I guess.
You guys draft a little bit like I do, because I can tell you're not too deep at running back because you're obviously in love with wide receivers. Now, it's been a renaissance for Aaron Rodgers this year, and the guy that seems to be most connected to him is now injured, Alan Lazard, and he's going to be gone for a while. When we were at the draft in Kentucky, Balky, you would see him moving down the boards, and every time someone drafted Marquez, Valdez, Scantling, they really didn't say the name with much excitement. It's kind of like, well, I have to draft him, but I don't know what's going to happen. Is Scantling going to fall into this rejuvenated Aaron Rodgers? Because right now I think Aaron Rodgers can make any receiver into a Pro Bowl receiver with the way he's throwing the ball. So what do you guys? Is Scantling maybe a guy that you might flex in, or you might wear any leagues where you might own him?
Yeah, I think that Lazard injury was a bummer for sure. He was really coming on with Rodgers, and I actually have him. We drafted him in the other league we have with you guys, and we were very bummed. I don't see why not that Valdez Scantling wouldn't get the targets. I don't know if Adams is back this week. I think he is, but I feel like that's where the coverage is going to roll. And he hasn't shown much yet. I mean, but, I think just by volume on a team that's going to probably throw a lot on Monday against Atlanta, I would think that he would get the targets. But at this point, flexing him, I guess it would depend on where you're at. Sadly, I don't have him in a lot of teams. I had Lazard, but I didn't have him in a lot of teams. So, but I think the opportunities will be there for him, but whether he does anything with it or not, that'll kind of be determined.
And that's the thing, Ryan, right? Because you said it. I mean, he's going to get the targets. There's no reason he wouldn't get the targets. Can he squeeze those targets? Can he actually catch those targets? Because we've seen Marquez Valdez-Scantling over the course of his career get wide open, get behind the defense, 70-yard touchdown right in his hands, and he drops it. And it's so being a Packers fan, it's very frustrating to see. But I think that Falcons game on Monday night, too, that's going to be a total shootout. I mean, you're looking at like 60-plus points in that game. Valdez-Scantling is definitely going to have his hand, or hopefully hands, in a lot of those plays on Monday night going forward. Let's get to some emails here tonight, guys, from some listeners that wrote in. And I think, Adam, I'm going to toss this one to you right away since it's a Lions question. This is George in Irving, Minnesota. He writes, should I just cut bait on DeAndre Swift? With the bye starting this week, I'm trying to only keep guys I might start, but Peterson and Johnson seem to be getting in a lot more than him in the Detroit backfield. Thanks, guys. That's George in Irving, Minnesota. Adam, you got to be excited. DeAndre, you're a fantasy guy. You're a Lions fan. You see DeAndre Swift being selected in the early second round. You think, oh, boy, this is going to be very exciting. Maybe the second coming of Javid Best. Who knows? Hopefully it ends up better than Javid Best. But in any event, with DeAndre Swift, what are you doing in your leagues right now? Because when it comes down to it, you're going to have to make some tough cuts over the next course of 4 or 5 weeks with the buys. Is Swift a cuttable guy, or do you have to find a way to keep him?
I mean, I think it depends on the team that you got along with him, because obviously you're not starting him. You're not starting him unless at least one of those guys goes down. And again, you don't want to wish injuries upon somebody, but unless the two guys ahead of him go down, he's just not going to get enough snaps to be in that lineup. So if you got a lot of depth on your team, and if you have DeAndre Swift in there and you drafted him in the 6th round or higher, like in the league that I was in, someone took him in the 6th round, that's just a really tough break. I guess it depends on the waiver wire. If I were looking at the league that I'm in of the Division 12 teams, there's no one on the waiver wire that I would take over his potential down the line. So I would hang on to him on my team based on who I have, but if you have other people that you believe have more upside on your waiver wire, by all means, I don't think he's a must-keep guy just because it's not just one person in front of him, it's two. So it really just depends on who you also have on your team to me.
So perhaps a smart idea, slow your roll. Do not move swiftly to the waiver wire to cut DeAndre unless you absolutely have to. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here all night.
And don't draft Detroit Lions. Never draft Lions. That's the other lesson there.
You know what's so funny about that is over the years, so last year I drafted Galladay on one team, and I was happy with it. But over the years, half decade plus, Adam, I have drafted a few Lions. The only guy I've really been happy with, and I think this guy still gets underrated for fantasy, and I'll let you chime in on this, Matthew Stafford. You can get him as your backup quarterback in just about every draft, and he puts up a ton of fantasy points when he's healthy, right?
Hey, who is the backup quarterback on CC Frijoles? Matthew Stafford.
He's right.
Yeah.
And I was just looking. CC Frijoles, because Melvin Gordon decided to go nuts last night, we're up to 5th now.
Oh, my goodness, 5th. That's even better than 15th. I didn't realize it was 5th. Yeah, Gordon, I don't know everybody saw that I was watching that game last night, and, I just thought the last 2 minutes would go by in roughly 2 minutes since it was a blowout. Well, not a blowout, but the game was well in hand. And then Melvin Gordon rattles off a 43-yard touchdown run when they're just trying to salt the game. It was insane. And I was thinking, you know what? Somebody who owns Melvin Gordon right now is very, very happy. And then lo and behold, when I see who you guys had in your starting lineup, boom, Melvin Gordon, you move up to 5th overall. That's exciting stuff. You cannot go wrong with that.
It was very exciting for me, sitting around not watching football but having it on my side phone. It was nice to see that happen in garbage time.
And guys, when he bounced out of that scrum of players and went around and saw that no one was there was no one happier or more surprised than Melvin Gordon. I think he needed that. So.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a vintage, back when he was running with the Wisconsin Badgers in college. It was a vintage Badgers run when one of those rare times that massive offensive line couldn't create anything, sort of what they would do against Michigan or Ohio State when they had to play a real football team and they couldn't get anything going. Melvin Gordon was the perfect guy to just bounce it outside because he had the speed to run around those linebackers, run past those corners, get by those safeties. That is what he did, and it's exactly what he did last night. So awesome to see. I know I had him going in several leagues too, so I was very excited to see that. Ryan, I want to pitch this email to you. This is Joe in Lubbock, Texas. I don't think you own Hunter Renfrow in this league or any FFPC leagues. I don't know if you own him in any of your home leagues, but Joe in Lubbock, Texas writes, how keen are you guys on starting Hunter Renfrow this week against the Bills with Henry Ruggs and Brian Edwards expected to miss? Yeah. Joe in Lubbock, Texas, thank you so much. Ryan, what do you think about Renfrow as a start this week as perhaps a flex?
Yeah, I have him in the other league, and we're with Lazard out, we're definitely plugging him in. I think he's gonna catch 8 or 9 balls for sure, hopefully with a touchdown. And with Ruggs out, I think he showed last week. I think it was against the Patriots that he's got those targets now, and I think the Bills, they're going to be, I'm assuming at least they'll be trailing for probably some of that game. So I think it's going to be pass happy, and I think it's a good play.
Farrell Elliott, ladies and gentlemen, the resident Raiders fan of this podcast. Farrell, I'll let you weigh in on this as well. What's the over under on Hunter Renfrow fantasy points for week 4? If I set it at 12.5, are you taking the over?
Yeah, I would be over that. This is a time of the year when we see the player like Hunter Renfrow, and there's a number of them. you look at Beasley and you look at Dave's favorite Andy Isabella, Adam Humphries at Tennessee. You know, we've got a floor that looks to me 15 catches and 1 touchdown through 3 games. That's what I would call a successful receiver. And there's a lot of guys not doing that, and there's a lot of these quarterbacks that want to look underneath look between the linebackers and underneath some of these defensive backs and get the ball to some sure-handed receivers. And that's where Renfro falls in a game when that, you know, Buffalo's going to put a nice pass rush on Carr. He's going to be looking to dump that ball out. Waller and Renfro, big games.
Yeah, no, I'm with you for sure on that. I like Renfro quite a bit this week. Yeah, he should do numbers. And the other thing too is Carr clearly trusts him at this point. I mean, he's the type. Him and Waller, both third down safety blankets for sure, and he's going to have them on all 3 downs available. Adam Casinelli and Ryan Barker, ladies and gentlemen, the 5th place overall team in the FFPC main event heading into Sunday's games here, guys. So lucky to have you guys on tonight. Before we let you go, you've been very gracious with your time. Farrell has one final question for you before we let you enjoy your weekend.
It's the tough one, too, guys. You know, we mentioned Dave. Last week we talked about a bust in FFPC starting lineups this week and also a sleeper that you should put in. And he came with Andy Isabella as our sleeper, and Isabella scores 2 touchdowns. So not only is this always a tough question, now you're following up a situation where you've got to match Dave's sleeper, which is tough. So I want to start first with the bust. Maybe I should get one from each of you because it seems like you guys are sharing the same brain. And so I want to get to understand here if you guys will think independently of each other because you're very sharp players. It's been very impressive to listen to you, and I'm glad you were not in my 12-team league. So we'll start with Adam. I need a bust. I need a bust, and then I need a sleeper and a little quick reason why for each.
All right. So randomly, of course, the guy I'm playing with has my bust and the sleeper this week. So the bust, I got Jimmy Graham, tight end, had a great game last week. And the reason I got him as a bust is he's playing the Colts. Colts have only given up 6 catches for 32 yards all year to opposing tight ends. And Jimmy Graham hasn't had back-to-back 10-point-plus performances in 3 years since he was with Seattle, and that only happened twice that year. So Jimmy Graham is on my bust list because of that. For sleeper, I was actually going to say Andy Isabella again if Christian Kirk and or Hopkins don't play. But if both of them play, which they might, my sleeper goes to, I mean, he's probably in most lineups, but Preston Williams of Miami, he's going to get a lot of targets playing catch-up against the Seahawks. So that would be my sleeper.
And they're good ones. So even with Graham getting a new quarterback, you're still going to put him on your bust list. And the 3 quarterbacks there, the 3 tight ends that the Colts had to defend were not anywhere near a Pro Bowl roster and probably won't be in the first 3 weeks. But you're sticking with Graham, and I think that's a strong choice. I mean, I look forward to seeing that. I think it's harder to pick the bust, and I think you picked a very, very, very good sleeper. What about your partner in crime here? What can we get from you?
Well, I think the bust. I don't know how many leagues are actually starting this guy, but I'm going to go with Cam Newton. I think the Chiefs laid the groundwork for how to stop him even last week playing Lamar Jackson, and the Patriots are a very run-heavy offense, but I think Cam Newton is a risky play in my mind just because of what the Chiefs showed last weekend or on Monday against Lamar Jackson.
Interesting.
And I should
Go ahead, Balky. We can get a little Cam Newton now.
No.
I was kind of frozen there with trying to figure out who I would start over Cam Newton.
Ryan, go ahead with your sleeper, and then I have a point to make about Cam Newton.
Oh, okay. And actually, my sleeper, we just talked a little bit about with the emailer, and I think Hunter Renfro is a solid flex play and a sleeper for this week, just based on the game, playing the Bills, and then just I think the number of targets he's going to get with the Raiders' 2 other receivers out. So we talked about that, but that was actually who I had.
Yeah, and Farrell and I are definitely on board with Renfro, too. I like him this week, too. I think if you're looking for a wide receiver 3 this week, you could do worse than Hunter Renfro, so I like him for sure. One of the things I did want to point out about that Cam Newton call, about him having a rough week this week, we had Tejas Badiwala, the $120,000 FFPC career winner, on the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown this week. Check it out, rotoviz.com/podcast, or anywhere you get podcasts, whether it be Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever. But we were talking about Cam Newton this week, and he also said, he's like, look, I love Cam Newton the rest of the way. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback as far as fantasy goes. I do not want to play him this week. He thinks it's going to be rough, which is weird, because you think that New England will probably be playing the passing game to catch up in that game against Kansas City. But he doesn't like him. Ryan Barker doesn't like him. Look, you're talking about a ton of winnings here and a guy who is really high up on the FFPC main event leaderboard. Don't start Cam Newton this week. Friends, don't let friends start Cam Newton in week 4 against the Kansas City Chiefs. Friends, tell friends, listen to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour this week, because Ryan Barker and Adam Casinelli, the 5th place overall team in the FFPC main event, were on. Gentlemen, such a pleasure. So much fun talking to you tonight. Good luck the rest of the way. Best of luck to this main event team as well. And say hi to Mooch for us. We'd love to pick his brain sometime the next time you're hanging out with him at a wedding.
Yeah, we tried to see if he was free tonight, but he wasn't. But also, I want to say get well soon to my friends Nat and Kurt. They got the COVIDs.
Oh God, yes, for sure. Quarantine.
I think they're listening because they're in quarantine. So I said I would say that.
Yeah. 90% of the people who listen to this podcast, 90% of the people listening to this podcast are isolating because they have COVID-19. That is our demographic. So we are hitting a home run tonight on that. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Good luck in week 4. We really appreciate you making some time for us tonight.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Have a good night.
Adam Casinelli, Ryan Barker, ladies and gentlemen, hanging out with us on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. 5th place overall in the FFPC main event after Melvin Gordon's big night. Farrell, did you have Melvin Gordon in any leagues going last night?
One, yes. My first team that I drafted,
okay.
And I said, why did I draft Melvin Gordon? And I never drafted him again. And I tell you what, he broke the hearts of some people in Las Vegas and everywhere else that sports wagering is legal, because he was under his 72.5 yards total until busting that run for the touchdown.
Yeah, that was just crazy, man. Just absolutely. The last 2 or 3 minutes of that game, I saw stuff I never thought I'd see happen. All those personal fouls, and then Vic Fangio drill sergeanting his team off the field, making sure that nobody, shook hands or talked to Adam Gase or anything like that. It was bizarre. It was a bizarre ending to the game.
It was probably a good thing to get those players off the field at that time. I think there were some field activities that would have continued. So a coach made a good decision there.
Speaking of coach, you think Adam Gase makes it through this season as Jets head coach, Farrell?
I don't know what. Well, there's a short answer and a long answer. From obvious reasons, it does not look like he's ever going to have any success with the group of players that he has. However, he has them executing, at least on the offensive side of the ball, and he's drafted a big tackle, Becton out of Louisville. The personnel decisions for me aren't correct. I think Frank Gore would be a good complementary player on a winning team. I have no idea what he's doing starting for an 0-4 team with a young quarterback.
Yeah, could be the only way he could have gotten on the field too. I don't know. Maybe Denzel Mims saves Adam Gase's job when he gets healthy. You never know what's going to happen there.
Sometimes it only takes one player. One player can rise a unit and get them to where they need to be. And this team was competitive, and Darnold was a pleasure to watch last night, especially that touchdown run. That was fantastic.
Yeah. Oh God, that was awesome. Just Thursday night football. You never know what you're going to see, for sure. Let's we got some listener emails here. I think they're basically all starter sit emails tonight. Farrell, we'll pound through as many of these as we can. First one's from Dustin in Southfield, Michigan. He writes, "Hey, Bulky and Farrell, is Justin Jefferson now, quote unquote, for real? I need to decide between him and Darius Slayton this weekend." Welcome aboard, Farrell. That is Dustin in Southfield, Michigan. And I will tell you this right now. Justin Jefferson is taking on the Houston Texans, in Texas. And then you have Darius Slayton, who is also on the road. He is taking on the Rams. Farrell, if you have to pick one of those guys to start, who's it going to be?
Oh, man, that is one of the easiest plays on the board this week. I'm a big Justin Jefferson fan. I could not believe when Johnson started the season at wide receiver. Now, he's held back by the quarterback play and some of the play calling on the team, but this guy is a real star, and he's who you need to put in your lineup. Now, the Giants have scored 3 touchdowns this year, Balky. Slayton's got 2 of them way back in week 1, hasn't done much since then. Ends up playing the Rams and looks across the line of scrimmage, and there's Mr. Ramsey staring at him. So it's not a good weekend for Darius Slayton. Much better weekend for Justin Jefferson. Easy decision.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Minnesota on the road, they are 4-point underdogs, and that total is 53.5. Kirk Cousins obviously has developed some sort of kinship, some sort of chemistry with Justin Jefferson going forward. Remember, this dude was a first-round pick, too. There's some pedigree in that, too. I think he's for real. I think you play him over Slayton. Now, for whatever it's worth, I didn't draft Darius Slayton anywhere this year, so I might be a little bit biased on that, but I'm definitely playing Jefferson over Slayton. On to a tight end question. Rich in Mansfield, Ohio. What's up, fellas? I drafted Evan Ingram as my starter, but I am weighing benching him in favor of Logan Thomas this week. Would you support that, guys? That is Rich in Mansfield, Ohio. Thank you so much for the email, Rich. And I'll tell you, and Farrell prefaced this, the 0-3 Giants, I just said they're going on the road to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The Washington football team this week, I believe, is taking on – I just lost it. I just had it. They're at home against the Ravens. They are 13.5-point home dogs with a total of 45.5. Would you be making the move to start Logan Thomas over Evan Ingram?
Oh, no. An inexperienced player that drafted Evan Ingram and drafted him pretty heavy or pretty highly does not need to make this move. Logan Thomas on his own right is in a very, very difficult game, this situation, with a quarterback that is even more challenged than any quarterback that would have in the league in getting him the ball. So Logan Thomas definitely not against almost any tight end, but particularly not against Evan Ingram. Now, Ingram as a floor probably here, Balky, of say 5, 50 yards, 1 touchdown. The Rams basically ignored the Bills' tight ends, much to their disappointment this past week. They scored 3 touchdowns against them. I think they will be very challenged to deal with Evan Ingram as a big target for the quarterback. It's not going to be enough, but it's going to be most of what the Giants have in the passing offense. Evan Ingram is my guy. I'm going forward with him. Easy decision.
Yeah, and not only that, too. I mean, think about it. That's a normal game script that we're talking about with Evan, and he should be normally involved if this game's close. The Rams are 12.5-point favorites. I mean, there's a good chance that Evan Ingram is heavily targeted by Daniel Jones in the second half if they have to come up. I think the floor is much higher for Ingram than it is for Logan Thomas, and I think you can make a pretty strong case that the ceiling is significantly higher than it is for Logan Thomas versus Evan Ingram as well. So I'm agreeing with you there, Evan Ingram over Logan Thomas for sure. Noah in Fort Lauderdale, I believe that's Florida. He says, tell me I'm crazy, so I won't go through with it. Right now I have Joe Burrow in at quarterback over Drew Brees. Or am I so insane that this might actually work? Appreciate it. That's Noah in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Noah, thank you so much for the email. Farrell, I'm going to tell you this right now. I have this exact same decision I have to make in one of my leagues. I have Burrow in over Brees, and I feel pretty good about it.
You're making the right decision. This is a perfect storm of the schedule in week 4. Burrow's biggest hurdle so far that I can see is being sacked. He's gone down 14 times in the first 3 games. Jacksonville, not an aggressive pass rush, only 3 sacks so far this year. This is the game where Burrow really begins to connect with A.J. Green. This team's going to be playing loose against Jacksonville, and Jacksonville's going to give them a good game because they've got a good offense too. So there's a lot of points here. There's a lot of balls in the air. Burrow can do some things with his feet. And Balky, the other side of that question, Drew Brees, it's more than father time. It's the offense that they played through all these years. Alvin Kamara cannot continue to have the kind of games that he had this past week. He can't carry this team on his back every week in the NFL against an improving Detroit Lion team who's an underdog in that game and just may win it.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm just kind of curious here because I know that the future for Cincinnati is T. Higgins taking over for A.J. Green, playing alongside Tyler Boyd. So, Farrell, if you by some chance, and I know I'm speaking to 0.01% of our audience right now, but if you had by per chance one league where you had A.J. Green and T. Higgins, you can only start one of them, you're saying play Green this week over Higgins.
I love the youthful receivers, and Higgins is actually one of my top sleepers for this week, and I want to get him in the lineup, but I don't think this is the week for it. I think that Burrow will look to develop this relationship, and I think it'll be successful for both players throughout the season, better than it's been so far, and I think it starts here.
You like T. Higgins this week. You love A.J. Green, and that means Joe Burrow is the start over Drew Brees. I am with you on that. Final email we have tonight is from Jack in Spring Grove, Pennsylvania. He writes, if Fournette misses week 4, do I have to play Ronald Jones over Jerick McKinnon? Thank you for the email, Jack. And I'll tell you this right now. New information since this email came in, Leonard Fournette is out this week. So it is Ronald Jones's backfield in Tampa. It's so weird. You know, we're in week 4. We're talking about, do I play McKinnon or Ronald Jones? Who thought we were going to be asking that question when the season started? No one. But this is the situation we're facing. Farrell, are you going to play Jerick McKinnon this week for the 49ers, who is taking on the Eagles at home? Or you could play Ronald Jones for Tom Brady's Buccaneers, who host the Chargers. Which one are you playing?
Yeah, I like both these players. I have them both on my roster. I'm going to start McKinnon because I like him a little more, but I'm going to flex Jones in if I can. You know, Balky, I'm a big believer in next man up football. You know, the guys, Ryan and Adam, who were with us, they talked about the Detroit Lions, and God bless the Detroit Lions fans. They put up with the Detroit Lions front office for all these years. Here's an organization that we hear a lot about, Swift and Johnson at running back, and when Adrian Peterson becomes available, that's who they go get and start. But that's not what's going on in Tampa. That's not what's going on in San Francisco. These organizations, the next man up at running back, these are very, very good players. Jones and McKinnon will both be successful. And you know, the coach the coaches in these two clubs, San Francisco and Tampa, very, very different. And, you know, Bruce is a big players coach, and he gives a real huge I think Ronald Jones is favorite, yes. And so I think he's got a chance to become a favorite of Brady. So if the quarterback and the coach like it, you can have a big, big game. And it looks like everything is pointing in that direction for Ronald Jones. So my answer is McKinnon a little bit more. Jones should be in your lineup too.
If I had the choice between the two, it's going to be McKinnon. I did not pick up McKinnon off waivers, nor did I draft him in a lot of these. I don't really have many shares of McKinnon. I have a lot of shares of Ronald Jones, and because of the destruction of running backs so far this season, I am forced to play Ronald Jones this week in more leagues than I like to. But I'll tell you what, after it was announced that Fournette's out, I don't really have a problem with Ronald Jones as a flex or even as your second running back this week. I think he's going to be all right. I think he's going to be A-OK in that game. We were A-OK tonight with our show tonight. Farrell, you're first as the official co-host of the show. We had Nelson Verbit on. We had Ryan Barker on. We had Adam Casinelli on. Flying colors, man. If I was a teacher, you'd be getting an A++.
Wow, that's great. I never had one before, Balky, so thank you.
Yeah, me neither. But this is the grade that you get tonight. So good to have you on, man. We will chat again next week, and best of luck in all your FFPC teams.
Thank you. A week, Balky, and I'll tell you about it next week.
All right, you're the man, Farrell. Really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank Farrell Elliott. I want to thank Adam Casinelli. I want to thank Ryan Barker, Nelson Verbit for being a part of the show tonight. Of course, the FFPC Rob, White, and of course each and every one of you for tuning in tonight. Tejas Badiwala on the High Stakes Lowdown. Check that out, rotoviz.com/podcast. We'll be back next week, 10/9 Central. Farrell and I will talk to Week 3 Football Guys second place owner Ryan Jerkos will be on the show. It's going to be a fun one. Good luck in Week 4, everybody. Your weekend officially starts now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, presented by MyFFPC.com. It was broadcast live and heard around the world. Balky and Farrell will be back next week with more analysis, interviews, and advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk with you again next week.
By the way, I should bring up here tonight, as long as we're giving Louisville some love, since Farrell is of Louisville, Kentucky. We had the Quiet Hollers doing the intro to the show. We had Frederick the Younger, another one of Louisville's big bands out there right now that Farrell happens to represent, doing the outro tonight. So thank you to them. Actually got a chance to see when they were in Appleton for the Mile of Music a couple of years ago. Great stuff from Frederick the Younger. One other thing I want to leave you with tonight. Farrell just talked about this with the next man up philosophy. And I think that's true in the NFL. Farrell likes it. I like it too. I don't want to oversell this, and I don't want to make a big deal out of this, but I was thinking about Alan Lazard this week, a guy that I never was really a big believer in. I just thought he was a guy and didn't invest in him in fantasy. We saw what he did in New Orleans on Sunday Night Football. It was later found out that he gutted through a core injury, had to have core surgery this week. He's going to be out indefinitely, at least a month. He's going to be gone. And the Packers medical team has been notoriously conservative over the years, and they don't let guys go out there when they have any kind of injury going on. And I was thinking about this, like, if Alan Lazard comes out of that game, what's his leash like? And it's probably razor thin, because he's got Marquez Valdes-Scantling breathing down his neck, Equanimeous St. Brown ready to step in, make a play. And I was thinking about this. The next man up is a great thing for those late-round picks or those non-pedigreed, those undrafted free agent picks. But if those guys get hurt, they are going to gut through it. They're going to do whatever it takes to get through it. So when you're thinking about starting a player or picking up a player is probably more wise, take a chance on these late-round guys, because they are going to give everything they got, and they will scratch and claw and never sit out, because they know that when they do sit out, that could be the end for them, and they never get that opportunity back. I think about guys like Alan Lazard is a perfect example. James Robinson in Jacksonville, another great example. That guy's going to give everything he can, and he's never going to leave a game unless somebody literally takes his helmet away. It's what we love about fantasy football. It's what we love about the NFL. It's what we love about life. Guys who give everything they can, or women. That's just a fantasy football discussion. People who give everything they can to a cause. So nice to see that they're very admirable people, and they're the people you want playing on your fantasy football team for sure. I'm going to get off my soapbox. I'm going to let you enjoy your weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Good luck in Week 4. I hope the balls bounce your way. And Farrell and I will talk to you ahead of Week 5 next Friday.